After listening to a 2-hour talk by Andy Galpin on the Huberman Lab podcast, these are my notes and a full summary on how to assess and improve all aspects of your fitness. This talk is about 9 different adaptations of exercise. We'll go over what they are and how to test for them. Number 1, skill development. This is about moving more efficiently, like running better or your squat technique. Number 2, speed. How quickly you can move. Number 3, power. The combination of speed and force. 4, strength. How much you can lift or the maximum force you can produce in a single attempt. Number 5, muscle hypertrophy. Basically, how big your muscles look. 6, muscular endurance. How many repetitions you can do, like in a push-up, focusing on one muscle group. Number 7, anaerobic capacity. How much work you can do in a short burst of time, like 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Number 8, maximal aerobic capacity. The limit of your endurance in 8 to 15 minutes range, where your heart rate peaks. 9, long duration endurance. Think of this as cardio. Your ability to sustain activity for 20 to 60 minutes with no breaks. Galpin talks about how at some point people got interested in aerobic and endurance activities like running and marathons. But then Arnold Schwarzenegger's movies created a shift toward strength training. Later on, CrossFit introduced circuit training. Now, the understanding is that balancing strength, power, and endurance is important, and we have protocols for each of them. This means that picking one silo, doing one type of exercise only, is not going to give you all you need. As we said earlier, there are 9 adaptations, and we're going to test for each and then decide what areas we need to improve on. Number 1, skill development. This is about movement technique, efficiency, and coordination. If you have access to a highly qualified physical therapist, that's the best route. If you want to do it yourself, this is how you can approach it. Do an upper body press like a push-up, an upper body pull like a pull-up or a bench row, a lower body press like a squat, and a lower body pull like a deadlift. Record yourself when doing each movement from different angles, from the front and from the side. And focus on the joint-by-joint assessment, shoulders, elbow, hip, knees, ankles, and also the lower back. And these are the things to look for. 1, symmetry. Compare your left and right side during the same movement. Is one side moving farther ahead than the other side? Are your hips sliding to one side when you're standing up in your squat? Is one elbow closer to your body when you're benching, or the other elbow is flared out too much compared to the other? 2, stability. Are your movements controlled? Check for shaking in areas like your knees during squats. Can you do the movement slowly? Can you pause at the bottom? 3, check for awareness. Notice any imbalances or poor movement pattern. And 4, check for range of motion. Score all these movements on a scale from 0 to 2. 0, absolutely terrible. 1, minor flaw. And 2, good form. Doing an exercise that you scored 0 at will put you at a high risk of injury. So you need to improve your form, stability, and your technique and address all these issues before you want to do that movement. Adaptation number 2, speed. Speed is how fast you can move. You can do a sprint test. To do that, sprint for a short distance to measure maximum speed. Speed is often less critical for most people, unless you're doing a sport that you want to focus on maximizing your velocity or acceleration. 3, power. Power is the speed multiplied by force. We lose fast-twitch muscle fibers as we age, and this impacts things like our ability to react quickly, which is important for avoiding falls. Slow twitch fibers are maintained by doing everyday activities. But to maintain fast twitch fibers, we need to do specific high force exercises. Here's how to test for power. Number 1, broad jump. Stand behind the line and jump as far forward as you can, measuring the distance from your start point to where your back heel lands. There's no running and no taking steps before taking the jump. You're going to stand still. But you can swing your arms and bounce as much as you would like to before the jump. A good rule of thumb for men is to jump their body height, and for women is to jump 15% less of their height. Number 2, vertical jump. Put your hands together so both of your middle fingers are touching. Then overlap them and put them over your head. Then you want to reach up as high as you can get. If you do one-handed, you can actually get pretty high by offsetting one of your shoulders. That's why this test is done two-handed. You can dip, you can swing your arms, but not run. Measure the distance between your standing reach and the height you have jumped. The goal is around 24 inches for men, close to 20 inches for those over 50. Women should aim for 15% lower. The third test is more advanced, the barbell velocity test. Use a velocity transducer on a barbell to measure how fast you can lift at various percentages of your 1 rep max, like at 40% or 50%. This gives insight into your force velocity curve and the power of that muscle group you're testing. Adaptation number 4, strengths. This is to test your maximum strengths, how much you can lift in one attempt. We never want to do maximum testing if it is going to cause an acute injury. These strength tests are assuming you have a good technique, so don't exercise to exhaustion or load weights to your maximum strengths if you are not sure or comfortable with your technique or the load you're using. Also, your warm-up protocol will have a huge effect on your actual results. So here's how to test for strengths. 1, grip strengths. Use a hand dynamometer to measure grip strengths. For men, 40 kg is minimum, with 60 kg being ideal. For women, 35 kg is minimum, 55 kg is optimal. And make sure there is no more than 10% variation between left hand and the right hand. Number 2, dead hang. Hang from a pull-up bar for as long as possible. 30 to 50 seconds is good. Over 60 seconds is optimal. 3, leg extension test. Test your 1 rep max on a leg extension machine. For men, you want to ideally be lifting your body weight. To adjust based on your age, reduce about 10% by every decade after 40. Also, instead of doing 1 rep max, you can reduce the load and do 2 to 4 reps and use an online calculator to get your 1 rep max. Do less than 5 though, because these conversion formulas are not as accurate for higher reps. Test number 4 in the strengths is front squat hold or goblet squat. Do a front squat about half of your body weight. Go down in the squat position and hold for about 45 seconds. You don't need to get up from that as long as you can hold that good position without a technical breakdown for about 45 seconds. As an intro, do 1/3 of your body weight for 30 seconds. I've made other videos summarizing Galpin and Huberman talks on hypertrophy, strength, power, and other protocols, as well as other videos on Huberman Lab podcast. If this was helpful, subscribe and follow along. Adaptation number 5, muscle hypertrophy. We want to measure muscle size and composition. Use tools like DEXA scan, which is the gold standard, or the other body composition testing tools to measure muscle mass and fat percentage. To get to your FFMI or fat-free mass index, you need to know your total body weight, your body fat percentage, and your height. Then, using an online calculator, you can get to your adjusted FFMI score. For men, aim for 20 or higher, with 18 being ideal for women or above, but below that is detrimental. If you're a man with an FFMI score over 24 or a woman over 22, if you're lean, it indicates a high level of muscle mass. But if that's FFMI and your body fat percentage is 40% or over, then you're a large individual and that's not a very great spot to be in. Number 6, muscular endurance. This test is for how long your muscle can sustain repeated contractions. And here's the testing protocol. Number 1, push-ups. For a push-up, do a full complete lockout of the elbows on top and a full chest touch or close to it at the ground level. For men, aim for 25 consecutive push-ups. Less than 10 is a concern. For women, you should aim for 15, with less than 5 indicating muscular endurance issues. However, bear in mind that if you cannot do even one single push-up, that's not about endurance. That's actually a strength issue. And you need to focus on building up your 1 rep max strength through a strength training. Number 2, plank test. Hold a front plank for 60 seconds and a side plank for 45 seconds to assess your core endurance. Number 3, repetition-based test. Load weights to 75% of your 1 rep max and do as many reps as possible. Aim for 8 to 12 reps to test endurance. For example, if you're a man and you couldn't do 1 leg extension of your body weight, but you can do 8 repetitions of 75% of your body weight, then we know that's a problem with your peak strength. But if you cannot do the 8 reps of 75% either, then we also have a muscular endurance problem as well. Adaptation number 7, anaerobic capacity. Here, we are measuring how much work you can do in a short, high-intensity burst. Testing protocol is 30-second max effort. Do an all-out effort by cycling or sprinting for 30 seconds. You can do this by doing any exercise where you can do maximal effort and don't have to worry about technical problems. Galpin doesn't recommend doing kettlebell swings for this, and sprinting is usually the safer option. Then you want to measure your heart rate recovery. You should see a recovery rate of 30 beats per minute. So this is 1 beat of recovery every 2 seconds. If your recovery is slower, you may need to work on anaerobic capacity. Galpin suggests that after testing anaerobic capacity, your heart rate recovery is a better metric than whether you got close to your predicted maximum heart rate. Your predicted maximum heart rate is 220 minus your age and is not an indication of your fitness level. Adaptation number 8, maximal aerobic capacity or VO2 max. VO2 max tests your aerobic capacity or how well your body uses oxygen during prolonged activities. The gold standard is to do a lab test for this. But if you want to do it yourself, here's how to approach it. So why VO2 max is important? VO2 max is a critical marker for health and longevity. A VO2 max below 18 milliliters per kilogram per minute means you will likely need assistance to live and you won't be able to live independently. Up to 22 is on the threshold, on the verge that indicates that person may soon need assistance to live. So here's the testing protocol. We are doing a 12-minute Cooper test. Run as far as possible in 12 minutes. You should start from standing still. Your goal is to get to the maximum distance in 12 minutes. Then use online calculators to estimate your VO2 max based on the distance covered. For men, aim for VO2 max of 50 or above. 55 is optimal. For women, the target is above 40. Galpin suggests that for men, VO2 max of 35 and below is concerning, and for women, below 30. But the good news is that VO2 max is highly trainable. Another way to test is submaximal test, used for people who cannot run. Walk a mile, record the time and your heart rate at the end. And using online calculators, calculate your estimated VO2 max. Another thing they discussed that I thought is great to mention, even though it's not a substitute to VO2 max testing, is resting heart rate. Ideally, it should be below 60 beats per minute. If it is above 75, there might be a fitness or health concern. Adaptation number 9, long duration endurance. This measures your ability to sustain effort for an extended period. The testing protocol is called a steady state test. Maintain consistent effort for 20 minutes without breaks. Ensure you can sustain work at a pace faster than walking, with a steady breathing, ideally through your nose. This test assesses how well you can maintain activity over time. Now, let's talk about timing and frequency of the test. To track your progress, do these tests once a year, ideally within the same week. Before doing the tests, take 48 hours of rest and then start with the FFMI test as your first one. Spread the other tests over different days to avoid fatigue impacting your results. But whatever you do, take notes so you can follow the same order for the next year. And also follow the same warm-up or setup you had so your results are comparable. Overall, over the next year, prioritize training in the areas that your results were showing weakness. You don't need to be optimal in all of these areas. You just need to make sure there is no severe issue. And if there is one, then you are moving that up just a little bit to be sufficient. It's great that you love one form of activity, and please do what you love and make sure you are not overlooking other important aspects.